He was the reason I smiled every day. I raised him with all my love, all my strength. But one day, he packed his bags and never looked back. This is not just a story. This is a mother's heartbreak. A lesson. A truth that many are afraid to speak. Listen closely, because one day, it could be your story too. The only reason I lived. I remember the day he was born like it was yesterday. It was raining outside, and I was lying on the old hospital bed, weak and scared. The pain was sharp, and the fear of being a single mother was even sharper. But then I heard his cry. That tiny, beautiful sound. My son. My little boy, Arian. His father had already left before he was born. I was just 23, working as a school receptionist in a small town. Life wasn't easy. Rent, groceries, bills, everything felt like a mountain. But whenever I held Arian in my arms, I felt strong. I felt like I could climb those mountains for him. He grew up fast. By the age of 5, he was asking questions like a little scientist. Why don't we have a car, Mama? Why do other kids have dads and I don't? I always answered with a smile, even when it hurt. We may not have a car, Arian, but we have something more important, each other. He would smile, and that smile was worth more than all the cars in the world. I worked 2 jobs, receptionist in the morning and cleaner in the evenings. Sometimes I came home so tired I could barely walk. But the moment I opened the door and saw him waiting with his homework in one hand and a drawing in the other, my exhaustion melted away. He loved drawing. He said he wanted to become an architect one day. I kept all his sketches in a folder. Some nights, I'd sit on the bed after he had fallen asleep, flipping through those pages and dreaming his dreams. I never remarried. Not because I didn't have offers, but because my world began and ended with Arian. Why don't you go out sometimes? My friend Roxana would ask. You're still young. Live a little. But how could I? Arian was my everything. I didn't need anyone else. Or so I thought. When Arian turned 15, I noticed a change. He started spending more time in his room. He stopped sharing things with me. His answers became short. How was school? Fine. Want me to cook your favorite biryani tonight? Whatever. I told myself it was just teenage behavior. All boys go through phases. But deep inside, I felt something was slipping away. Then came the day he got a scholarship to a big college in the city. I was proud. So proud. I wanted the whole world to know. My son is going to college. My Arian. I helped him pack his bags. I stitched his name on every shirt. I wrote a small note and put it inside his suitcase. It said, "Wherever you go, my heart goes with you." At the train station, I hugged him tight. Call me every night, okay? Yeah, he said, looking at his phone. Sure. That was the last time I saw my son in person. The first few weeks were okay. He called. Sometimes short calls, sometimes longer ones. But slowly the calls stopped. Messages became rare. I thought maybe he was busy. New city, new friends, studies. Yes, that must be it. But when I called him, he didn't answer. When I texted, there was no reply. One day, I called from Roxana's number. He picked up. Arian, I said, my voice shaking. He paused. Yeah, it's me, Mama. Long silence. Oh, hey. You didn't call for weeks. I was so worried. Sorry. I've been busy. That's okay. I just wanted to hear your voice. Okay. I have to go now. And he hung up. That night, I cried silently. Not because he was rude, but because I felt like I was becoming a stranger to my own child. I still cooked his favorite dishes on Sundays. I kept his room clean, hoping he would visit someday. Every time I heard the gate open, my heart jumped. But it was never him. People started asking, how is Arian? Is he working now? Is he married? I smiled and lied. Yes, he's doing great. Very busy. But he'll visit soon. But the truth was, I didn't know. I had no idea who he had become. My phone stayed silent. My mailbox empty. Then one day I received a letter. My hands trembled as I opened it. It wasn't from Arian. It was from a lawyer. Arian has legally changed his address and listed no contact with his biological family. He requests no communication unless through legal means. That letter hit me harder than a slap. My son, the boy I raised alone, the child I gave everything to, had erased me from his life. Why? What did I do wrong? I searched through every memory, every moment. Was I too strict? Did I love him too much? Was I not enough? The house felt colder. The nights longer. My heart heavier. Still, I waited. I waited, because mothers don't stop loving. Even when their children leave them behind. I still wait for his call. After that letter from the lawyer, something inside me broke. It wasn't just pain, it was confusion, shame, and a deep, heavy silence that filled every corner of my home. I kept reading the letter again and again, trying to find some clue, some hidden message, some reason. But all I saw was distance and rejection. I didn't leave the house for 3 days. I didn't cook. I didn't sleep. The neighbors noticed and started knocking on my door. Roxana came too, with a box of food and worry in her eyes. "Imrana," she said gently, "you look pale. What's going on?" I handed her the letter without saying a word. She read it slowly. Her face changed. She looked at me like she didn't know what to say. "How can he do this to you?" she finally whispered. I shook my head, tears falling down my cheeks. "I raised him, Roxana. I never let him feel the absence of his father. I gave him everything. Why did he cut me off like this?" She didn't have an answer. No one did. In the following weeks, I tried to get back to a normal routine. I went back to my receptionist job, but I wasn't the same. I smiled less. I talked less. I started avoiding conversations about children and family. People still asked, "When will Aryan come to visit?" And I always gave the same answer. "Soon, inshallah." But even God must have been tired of hearing that lie from me. At night, I would sit in Aryan's room and look at his old drawings. There was one of a house, a beautiful one with a garden, a big window, and a smiling mother standing outside. He had written at the bottom, "One day I'll build this house for you, Mama." I held that drawing close to my chest and cried like a child. I couldn't tell anyone how lonely I felt. In our society, when a mother says her child abandoned her, people don't feel sympathy. They judge. They ask, "What did you do wrong?" They whisper behind your back, "She must have been a terrible mother." So I kept my pain inside. Quietly. Secretly. Then one day, while dusting the bookshelf, I found a small notebook. Aryan's handwriting. It was from when he was around 12. It was a journal full of little stories and thoughts. In one entry he wrote, "Sometimes I wish I had a dad. But Mama says it's okay. She's both my parents. I want to make her proud. I want to buy her a house and a car. She's my hero." I smiled through tears. That was the Aryan I knew. That was my son. Where did that boy go? Had someone turned him against me? Was he ashamed of me? Was my love not enough? A few months passed. One day, I was cleaning my inbox and saw an old email. It was from Aryan, sent years ago, with a photo of us on his school's annual day. He had written, "My strength. My queen. My everything." I sat in front of the computer for hours, just staring at the screen. Then I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I wrote him an email. Subject, still waiting. Message. "Aryan, I don't know where you are or what made you take this decision. But I'm still your mother. I still remember every time you called me your hero. I don't want anything from you. No money, no gifts, no house. I just want to hear your voice. Even if it's just once. Please. Mama." I hit send. And then waited. Days passed. No reply. Every morning, the first thing I did was check my inbox. Still nothing. One evening, I went to the nearby park. It was a place Aryan and I used to go to when he was little. I sat on the same old bench where he once played with his toy car. The sun was setting, and the sky was turning orange. I closed my eyes and imagined him as a child again, running, laughing, calling me, "Mama, look." A small boy passed by with his mother. He looked back at me, then hugged his mom tightly. That moment hit me like a wave. I broke down in public, right there on the bench, sobbing uncontrollably. A kind old man walked over and asked, "Are you okay, Beatty?" I nodded, wiping my tears. "Yes, I'm just remembering someone." That night I made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't spend the rest of my life waiting. I needed to do something. So I packed a small bag, took a day off from work, and booked a bus ticket to the city where Aryan's college was. I knew he had graduated by now, but maybe someone there knew where he was. The bus ride was long, about 8 hours. I stared out the window the whole way, my heart beating fast. I didn't know what I was going to say if I found him. I didn't even know if I would recognize him, how much he had changed. When I reached the campus, I walked around asking people, showing his old photo. Most students didn't know him. But finally, a girl in the library said, "Yes, I remember him. He was brilliant. I think he was hired by a foreign company before he even finished graduation." Foreign company? My legs shook. Had he gone abroad? I found the office records, and yes, there it was. Aryan Khan. Graduated with honors. Recruited by a firm in Canada. Canada. That's why he didn't return. That's why the silence. But why didn't he tell me? Why didn't he say goodbye? I came back home with no answers, just more pain. That night, I sat on the floor, surrounded by his childhood photos, his toys, his notebooks. And I whispered into the silence. Arian, if you can hear me, I'm still here. I will always be here. A mother never forgets. After coming back from the city, I felt emptier than ever. I now knew where Arian had gone. Canada. So far away. A different world, a different life. But I still didn't know why he had left me behind. Why he never said goodbye, why he never wrote, called, or looked back. I stopped telling people stories about him. I stopped pretending that he would visit me soon. I just stopped hoping. Not because I didn't love him anymore, but because I was tired of being hurt by my own hope. Still, every night before sleeping, I looked at my phone. Just in case. Sometimes I would even imagine how the call would go. Hello. Mama, it's me, Arian. Oh my God. Arian, are you okay? Where are you? I'm sorry, Mama. I made a mistake. I miss you. But the phone never rang. The days turned into months. I tried to keep myself busy. I joined a sewing class at the local community center. I started teaching 2 little girls from the neighborhood after school. Their laughter filled the silence in my house for a while. One of them, Aisha, asked me one day, Auntie, do you have any children? I smiled gently. Yes. I have a son. But he lives very far away now. Does he call you? I paused. No, Beta. Not anymore. She looked confused. But, don't all sons love their mothers? I didn't know what to say. One day, while I was cleaning the attic, I found an old tape recorder with a cassette inside. It had Arian's voice, 2005 written on it. My hands trembled as I picked it up and put it into the player. The machine made a clicking sound, and then his voice filled the room. Mama, I love you so much. You're my best friend. When I grow up, I'll buy you ice cream every day. I laughed and cried at the same time. That little boy, where did he go? How did that child turn into a man who wanted nothing to do with me? The house had become a museum of memories. Photos, notes, drawings, clothes he had outgrown. Every corner whispered his name. Sometimes I even thought I saw him in the street, a tall man with similar hair or a familiar walk. But it was never him. Then something unexpected happened. One morning, while sweeping the floor, I heard a knock on the door. A courier. He handed me a small envelope. From Canada, he said. My heart skipped a beat. I rushed inside, tore it open, and found a greeting card. A printed card. No handwriting. No name. It simply said, Happy Mother's Day. No message. No love. Just those 2 words as cold as snow. I held the card in my hands, unsure whether to cry or smile. Was this from Arian? It had no return address. No signature. Just a blank gesture. But I held on to that card like it was a piece of gold. That small card gave me a strange kind of energy. Maybe, just maybe, he was thinking of me. Even if he couldn't say it, maybe he missed me in some corner of his heart. So I started writing letters again. Letters I never sent. Every week, I wrote 1 letter and placed it in a box in my cupboard. Dear Arian, today I made your favorite dish, chicken karahi. I wish you were here to eat with me. Dear Arian, the neighborhood kids are growing so fast. Do you remember your red bicycle? I gave it to little Ahmed down the street. He reminds me of you. Each letter was full of love, pain, and unanswered questions. One evening, I went to the market. While walking past a bookstore, I saw a big poster in the window. New book launch, Indian architect Arian Khan shares his journey. My legs froze. My mouth went dry. I ran inside and asked the shopkeeper, Can I see that book? He handed it to me. The title read, Designing My Life by Arian Khan. I opened the first few pages. There he was, my Arian. Taller, older, wearing a suit, smiling slightly. I held the book to my chest. I bought it immediately and rushed home. That night, I read the entire book in one sitting. It was his story, how he struggled, studied, worked hard, and finally made a name for himself. But not a single word about me. Not even a line. He wrote about his professors, friends, and mentors, but not his mother. As if I never existed. I closed the book and whispered, You didn't just erase me from your life, Arian. You erased me from your story. Still, I didn't hate him. I couldn't. A mother's heart doesn't work like that. Instead, I kept the book on my shelf, right next to the photo of us from his 10th birthday. And every time I passed by, I looked at them together, the boy who once gave me drawings and the man who now wrote books. My son. My silence. My shadow. Sometimes people ask me, how do you live alone? I tell them, I'm not alone. My memories keep me company. But they don't know that memories don't hug you. They don't ask how your day was. They don't bring medicine when you're sick or help carry the grocery bags. They just sit there. Silent. Heavy. Cold. But I never gave up writing those letters. Every week, one more letter went into that old wooden box. Hundreds of letters now. Maybe one day he'll come back and read them. And maybe he'll understand that no matter how far he went, no matter how silent he became, I never stopped being his mother. And I never will. The day I fell sick, I had always been strong, or at least I pretended to be. For years, I carried my pain in silence and lived on hope. But sometimes even the strongest heart gives up. One morning, I woke up with a strange weakness in my arms and legs. I thought it was just tiredness. Maybe I had worked too much the day before. But by afternoon, I couldn't stand without holding on to something. I sat on my bed, breathing heavily. My vision blurred. I tried to call for help, but my voice came out weak and shaky. Roxana found me later that evening when I didn't answer her calls and hadn't shown up for our usual walk. She rushed me to the hospital. I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, dehydration, and severe fatigue. The doctor said I had ignored my health for too long. My body was tired, just like my heart. I stayed in the hospital for 4 days. Alone. No family came. No visitors except Roxana. She sat beside me, fed me soup, and told me stories to make me smile. But when she left for a few hours, the silence crept back in. I looked at the empty chair beside my bed and imagined Arian sitting there, holding my hand, asking, "Mama, are you okay?" But it was just my imagination. On the last night at the hospital, I picked up my phone and looked at Arian's old number. My thumb hovered over the call button. I knew he wouldn't answer. Maybe the number wasn't even active anymore. But I wanted to hear the tone. Just once. I pressed call. It rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then it stopped. No voicemail. No message. Just silence. I didn't cry that night. I was too tired even for tears. When I returned home, the house felt colder than ever. My plants had dried up. The food in the fridge had spoiled. My little home looked as tired as I felt. I sat in Arian's room and opened the wooden box where I kept my unsent letters. I picked one at random and read it aloud. Dear Arian, today the sunset reminded me of the time you painted that picture in 3rd grade. Do you remember? You mixed red and orange and said, "This is how I see love, Mama." I still have that painting. I still remember how you looked at me and smiled. Love. Mama. I closed the letter and whispered, "If love looked like a sunset, then why did you let our sky go dark, Arian?" That week, Roxana visited more often. She brought fruits, helped with chores, and even stayed overnight once when I had a fever. "You need someone," she said. "Someone who can take care of you when you get old." I smiled weakly. I thought I already had someone. She held my hand and said softly, "Maybe it's time to let go." But how does a mother let go of her child? How do you remove someone from your heart who lives in every beat of it? No, I couldn't let go. Not yet. One morning, I decided to make Arian's favorite breakfast, parathas and sweet chai. I hadn't cooked that in years. My hands trembled as I kneaded the dough, but I forced myself through it. As I placed the food on the table, I looked at the empty chair across from me. And then something strange happened. I imagined Arian sitting there. Not as a man, but as the little boy I remembered. He was laughing, telling me about school, asking for more butter on his paratha. I smiled. For a moment it felt real. But when I blinked, the chair was empty again. That's when I realized something important. Maybe Arian would never come back. Maybe he had moved on forever. But my memories of him were still here. And maybe that was all I had now. Maybe that had to be enough. That evening, I did something I had never done before. I picked up a new notebook and began writing a new kind of letter. Not to Arian. To myself. Dear Imrana, you did your best. You raised your son with love, strength, and everything you had. You were not perfect, but you were kind. You were enough. You are enough. From a mother who is learning to breathe again. I closed the notebook and hugged it tightly. Maybe I couldn't change the past. Maybe I couldn't bring Arian back. But I could learn to live with the truth. To stop blaming myself. To stop asking why. And start asking, what now? The next day, I went out to the market and bought new bedsheets for Arian's room. I cleaned it from top to bottom, rearranged the shelves, and folded all his clothes neatly. Then I placed the wooden letter box in the middle of the bed and closed the door behind me. That room would always be his, even if he never returned. But it wouldn't be my prison anymore. That evening, while walking in the park, I saw an old woman sitting alone on a bench. Her eyes were wet, and she looked lost. I sat beside her and gently asked, "Are you okay?" She looked at me and said, "My daughter hasn't spoken to me in 5 years." I took her hand and whispered, "My son left me too." She smiled through her tears. "Then maybe we can sit together sometimes." And just like that, something shifted in me. I wasn't the only one. There were many like me. Mothers, fathers, parents left behind by children who got too busy, too distant, too lost in their own world. And maybe if we shared our stories, the loneliness would hurt a little less. That night, I opened my window and looked at the stars. "Arian," I said softly, "wherever you are, I hope you're happy. I hope you're safe. And I hope, deep in your heart, you still remember me." And even though the sky said nothing back, I felt a strange peace in my chest. Not hope, not sadness, just acceptance. Because sometimes healing doesn't come from others returning. Sometimes it comes from learning how to stay, even when they've left. A letter finds its way. Time had become slow, like a quiet river that never rushed but never stopped. I had grown used to the silence of my home, to the creaking of the floorboards and the ticking of the old wall clock. Days passed like soft shadows, peaceful on the outside but aching inside. I had learned to smile again, even if it wasn't always real. I smiled at the neighbors, the shopkeeper, the children who played cricket in the street. I even started helping Roxana at the local clinic, just to keep myself occupied. But inside, a small part of me still looked out the window every morning, still paused every time the phone rang, still listened for footsteps that never came. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. The postman knocked at my door. He handed me a large envelope with a strange stamp. Canada. My hands trembled as I took it. There was no name, no return address, just my own name, written in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. Arian's handwriting. I clutched the envelope to my chest and closed the door. My heart raced. I walked slowly to the living room and sat down. For a few seconds, I just held it. I was afraid to open it. What if it hurt me again? But I needed to know. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. And a photograph. I unfolded the letter first. "Dear Mama, I don't know how to start this letter. I've written it 100 times in my head, but I never had the courage to send it. Until now. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know my silence hurt you. I know I disappeared from your life, and I can never take back the pain I caused. But Mama, please believe me when I say, I never stopped thinking about you. When I left for Canada, everything moved so fast. I got caught up in work, in building a life, in chasing success. And then one day, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. I had become everything I thought I wanted. But I felt empty, because the one person who gave me everything wasn't with me. You. I read your emails. I saw your missed calls. I even received your letter, the one you sent before the lawyer's letter. But I didn't know how to respond. I was ashamed. I thought you'd be angry. I thought I didn't deserve your love anymore. So I stayed silent. But the silence became heavier than guilt. The photo slipped from my hands and landed on the table. I picked it up. It was Arian, standing in front of a modern building, holding a baby in his arms. Next to him, a woman smiled, his wife. I looked closely. Arian's eyes, they hadn't changed. Still deep, still thoughtful, still hiding so much. I turned the photo around. Meet your grandson, Mama. His name is Imran. He's 2 months old. Tears filled my eyes. I continued reading. Mama, becoming a father changed something in me. The first time I held Imran, I thought of you. I remembered how you held me when I was sick, how you stayed awake during my exams, how you never ate until I had eaten. I remembered the warmth of your hands, your voice when you read bedtime stories, and how you kissed my forehead every morning. And I broke down, because I realized I had done to you what I could never bear if Imran did to me. I left you alone. And yet, even after everything, I know you're still waiting. You always were patient, always strong, always loving. I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know, I am coming home. If you'll have me. I held the letter close to my heart. I couldn't believe it. After all these years, after all the pain, he remembered. He remembered me. I laughed and cried at the same time. My hands shook as I reread the letter, again and again, afraid that if I blinked, it would disappear. I looked at the photo again. My grandson. Arian's son. My blood. A new beginning. The next morning, I woke up with a new energy I hadn't felt in years. I cleaned the house, humming to myself. I washed the curtains, polished the furniture, and even baked Arian's favorite cake, chocolate almond. I opened Arian's room and dusted it again. This time, not as a shrine of the past, but as a room preparing for someone's return. I took out the wooden box of letters. I tied a ribbon around it. I would give them to him when he came. He needed to know how much I had loved him, even in his absence. 3 days later, I received another envelope. This time a plane ticket. From Toronto to Delhi. With a note. Landing next Thursday. Will come straight to you. Please don't cry too much, Mama. Love, Arian. But how could I not? How could a mother hold back tears when the piece of her heart that once left was coming back? The night before Thursday, I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake, fixing the cushions, rechecking the kitchen, opening the window every 10 minutes to look at the road. Morning came. Then afternoon. And finally I heard it. A car stopping outside. I opened the door before he could even knock. And there he was. Arian. Older, tired-looking, but still my son. He held a baby in his arms. Mama, he said, voice cracking. I didn't wait. I ran to him, wrapped my arms around him, and cried like a child. He cried too. And in that moment, all the years, the pain, the silence, they melted away. We were mother and son again. Together. Home again. I couldn't stop staring at him. Arian stood in the middle of the living room, holding his baby close, his eyes filled with guilt and longing. His hair had a few strands of gray, and his face was more serious than I remembered. But when he looked at me, it was the same look. The one I had missed for so long. We sat down slowly, as if time had rewound, but didn't know where to start again. For a few moments, no one spoke. We just looked at each other, 1,000 words floating between us, but none coming out. Then I reached out to touch the baby's tiny hand. He was warm. Soft. Breathing gently. What's his name again? I whispered, my voice trembling. Imran, Arian replied. I named him after you. Imrana. I looked up, my eyes full of tears. He deserves to know the strongest person I've ever known. Those words broke something inside me. Not in a painful way, but like a dam finally releasing years of silent grief. I began to cry. Arian didn't speak. He just leaned forward and hugged me. A long, tight, honest hug. The kind that says, I'm sorry, without needing to use words. And I hugged him back like I never wanted to let go again. Later, I made tea. The house suddenly smelled like home again, warm cardamom and milk. Arian sat at the kitchen table, rocking Imran gently in his lap. I read every one of your emails, he said quietly. My hands paused on the teacups. I wanted to reply. So many times. But I thought maybe you hated me. Hated you. I looked at him. Arian, I prayed for you every day. I loved you even when you disappeared. How can a mother hate her own child? He looked down, ashamed. I was afraid. Afraid that you wouldn't forgive me. That I had failed you. No, I said gently. You didn't fail me. You hurt me. You disappeared. Yes, but you didn't fail me. You came back. That's what matters. He reached into his bag and handed me something. A thick envelope. What's this? I asked. Letters, he said. Ones I wrote but never sent. All for you. My fingers shook as I opened the envelope. The first one was dated 4 years ago. Dear Mama, it's snowing outside today. I made tea and thought of you. I miss you. I don't know how to say it, but I do. I smiled through my tears. Even in silence, we had both been writing. We had both been talking to each other, just not out loud. We sat for hours that day. He told me everything, how hard life was at first, how lonely it felt in a foreign land, how he worked night shifts, skipped meals, and once even thought about giving up. But then he remembered me. Your voice, Mama, he said. I'd hear it in my head when I was about to break. It kept me going. That night, I tucked Imran into Arian's old crib. The same crib I had once built with my own hands. I had kept it all these years, hoping someday. Now it had a baby in it again. My grandson. I kissed his forehead gently. Welcome home, little one, I whispered. In the days that followed, we talked more. Laughed. Cried. Arian's wife, Nita, called me on video chat from Canada. Mama, she said shyly, I've heard so much about you. I'm sorry we didn't come sooner. I smiled warmly. You're always welcome, Beta. This is your home too. We talked like old friends. She showed me Imran's baby clothes, his toys, his first smile videos. And for the first time in years, I felt like a family again. One evening, Arian and I walked to the same park where I used to sit alone. "Remember this bench?" I asked him. He looked around and nodded. "I was just a kid then. I sat here once," I said, "and cried like a child because I missed you." He didn't reply. Instead, he took my hand and held it tightly. "I'll never let you cry alone again, Mama." A week later, Arian had to leave for a business meeting in Delhi, but he promised to return soon. Before he left, he looked around the house and said, "I want to take you to Canada, Mama. Not as a guest, but forever." I was surprised. "Forever?" I asked. "But this is my home." "We'll make a new one," he said. "You shouldn't live alone anymore." I thought about it that night. Leaving the house where I had raised him, where every wall held memories. Could I do it? But then I looked at Imran. So tiny, so full of life. And I realized something. Life had given me another chance. Not just to be a mother again, but to be a grandmother. To be part of a new beginning. Maybe it was time to say goodbye to the house. But not to the love. The next morning, I opened the cupboard and took out the box of unsent letters. I placed them in Arian's suitcase. "I want you to read them all," I said. "Every single one." "I will," he promised. "Every word." And he did. Every night after Imran slept, Arian sat beside me with a few letters. Some made him cry. Some made him laugh. One made him hug me suddenly and say, "I'm so sorry for every minute you waited." And I told him, "You're here now. That's all that matters." On the day we left for Canada, I stood outside the house one last time. I looked at the front door, the garden I had once planted, the window where I used to wait, and smiled. "I gave you everything I had," I whispered to the house. "And now it's time to go." On the flight, Arian held my hand. Imran slept peacefully in his mother's arms. And as the plane rose into the sky, I closed my eyes, not with sadness but peace. Because sometimes, a mother waits a lifetime for her child to come back. And sometimes, that wait ends with a knock on the door, a letter in the mail, a tiny hand in yours. My son left me alone. But he came back. And with him, he brought light, love, and a second chance at life.